Every single firearm that you buy in the state of California, every single firearm precursor part, and every single piece of ammunition that you buy in the state of California could potentially get incredibly more expensive. And today we're going to talk about why. So I want to first apologize for the general disheveled look that I have right now and the potential lack of video and audio quality. I am in the process of moving right now, so bear in room. I'm very sweaty, been moving furniture. I'm not going to really apologize for that as much as I'm just explaining why I look so disheveled. So if you feel like that invalidates anything that I say, whatever. That's whatever floats your goat. So I do want to say thank you to everyone that supports this channel. Thank you for everyone that supports through Subscribestar, through any of my affiliate links that I post on social media. I really appreciate all that support. If you want to check out some links, check out the Linktree link in my description. You'll see some stuff that the state might not want you to know about. So for those of you that live in the state of California, AB1223, this is a bill that was initially brought forward by Assemblymember Mark Levine. He is the person initially behind it. He has passed a whole slew of gun control bills in the past. I harass him constantly, not really harass, I tweet at him constantly on Twitter. I contact him by email occasionally, and I am going to most likely be calling his office a whole lot more often now that AB1223 gets even worse than we initially thought. I highly recommend that if you live in the state of California, that you contact your legislator, because this bill, in order to pass, would need a 2/3 vote in all of the state branches of government. So in order for it to pass, it needs a lot more than just a simple 50% vote. So what is this bill actually going to be talking about? Let's hop over here. Now, if you look at this, I scrolled up a lot. This is the general description of the text. We're not really going to talk about the basics of it. But if you look here, it spends a whole lot of time talking about how guns bad, gun control good, gun rights bad. Now, throughout this, they reference how the NRA and the National Shooting Sports Foundation has previously praised gun control in the form of excise tax. Not a fan of that. They praise research, I'm going to put that in air quotes, research done by Everytown for gun safety. And if you look at the tweets that have been posted by Mark Levine about this, you'll see that it has been astroturfed to hell by all of the Moms Demand and Everytown for gun safety people. Meanwhile, anything else that he does on his social media platforms gets like 3 people that are interested. I don't know, maybe he's not the people's champion that he wants to pretend he is. It talks about how guns are bad, mentions terrible arguments about how gun stores are the leading source of firearms on the illegal market. Well, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. If someone does a straw purchase or someone buys a gun and then that gun is stolen, it originally came from a gun store. Most guns come from a gun store at some point in their life, right? Most guns out in the market aren't homemade. So therefore, yeah, that makes sense, but it's not saying what they want it to say. They go on to reference several articles on various mainstream media platforms, whereas the only time that they actually mention a study done by an actual university or a potential somewhat less biased source was when it alluded to the fact that more people purchased guns this year and there were more murders this year where gun violence was the big source. Well, here's the thing. People didn't start dying more because more people were buying guns. People started buying guns increasingly more often because people were rioting in the streets. Gun sales were not the cause of all this violence. The violence was the cause of the gun sales. So, moving past all that, it talks about how Cal VIP is going to be extended indefinitely, meaning that they're going to spend more and more tax dollars studying and trying to intervene in this, and maybe trying to solve some of the issues outside of gun violence that leads to violence in general. That's a great idea, in my opinion, but I'm really just not a huge fan of punishing every single gun owner because of the actions of people that are bad and most likely did not acquire their gun legally in the first place. So we see how much it talks about Cal VIP there. Now here's where it talks about the actual excise tax that's going to be put on. So it is not going to be in the form of a fee like the DROS fees. What this is going to be is that the dealers are actually going to have to increase the prices, and let's explain why. So it talks about licensed dealer, all these definitions and whatnot, peace officer, law enforcement agency, and we'll talk about law enforcement in a second. Now, commencing July 1st, 2022, so about a year from now, just a little bit over a year, an excise tax is hereby imposed upon firearms, licensed firearms dealers, ammunition vendors, and firearm precursor part vendors at the rate of 10% of the sales price of a handgun and 11% of the sales price of a long gun, rifle, firearm precursor part, and ammunition sold in this state to mirror the Pittman-Robertson Act federal excise tax rate. Wow, just stumbled all over that. Basically, here's what's going to happen. For any handgun sold by anyone in the state of California through a dealer, 10% excise tax. Okay? Do you think that the gun stores are just going to automatically take a 10% loss on every single firearm every single handgun that they sell? No. It's going to cause the prices to increase. Then an 11% on the sale of a long gun, rifle, firearm precursor part, and ammunition. 11% more. Now, think about this. You spend $100 on ammo. Gun store would then have to pay $11 to the state. Do you think that they're just going to eat that $11? I don't think so. This is going to cause every single firearm precursor part, which is also going to have to go through a licensed gun store instead of just buying an 80% online starting that same day. Now, every time in the state of California, starting on July 1st, 2022, if this passes, which I really do think it will pass unless we get enough opposition to it, because it is currently being astroturfed by Moms Demand Action and Everytown for Gun Safety. But for every long gun, rifle, firearm precursor part, and any ammunition sold in the state, 11% more expensive. And here's the exemptions. Here's the part that I love. If you are a police officer that watches this video, I appreciate your support. Now, if you're a police officer that watches this video that currently gets to enjoy things like the off-roster price increase when you can sell them and stuff like that, and being able to buy magazines, being able to buy all kinds of stuff that we can't get as just plebs, as peons, I encourage you to reach out to your police unions and tell them not to support this, because your police unions are most likely going to be like, yes, this is good, and it'll save officers. When you and I, if you watch this channel regularly, know that it won't actually do what they're saying it's going to do, and they're punishing people like me and leaving you without any sort of fees. There are, exempted from the tax imposed by this part, the sale of any firearm, ammunition, or firearm precursor part to a peace officer or any law enforcement agency employing that peace officer for use in the normal course of employment. Meaning that when a law enforcement officer goes and buys a Glock 19, whether it's on roster or not, they would not have to pay, or the gun store would not have to pay and account for an 11% price difference. What this is going to mean is that any law enforcement could buy a ghost gun precursor or ammunition or a firearm from one of these vendors or gun stores and get a cheaper price simply because they are law enforcement. Police exemptions are a huge reason why we currently have the system that we have in place, because every time a police union figurehead goes up, or every time a police chief goes up on stage in front of the cameras and says, we support this common sense gun control, what they are doing is throwing all of our rights under the bus while giving themselves a nice little exemption because it doesn't affect them. They don't care. It doesn't matter to them because they're above the law. They are better than the average person, or so these laws would tend to incline us to believe. Now, that's really where I have a huge problem with this, because if they're talking about this being a reason to fund state programs, it's not just that the law enforcement agency, it's a peace officer that can buy it with their own money for the use in the normal course of employment. And we all know how that really plays out. So in effect, what this is going to do is give a huge exemption to law enforcement for no reason. I don't know. Do I think that this law should be there in the first place? No, but I don't agree, especially with laws that exempt people while giving everyone else the shit end of the stick. So I'm asking you politely to contact the representatives for your union, talk to your police chief, talk to your fellow officers in whatever department it is, and tell them not to support AB1223, because too many people are going to think that this is a great bill, when in reality what this bill is going to do is hurt people that can't afford to have that increased cost, because it's not just on the gun. Every single time you want to buy ammunition, unsafe gun owners typically are people that don't train with their gun often enough at home and don't train often enough with their gun on the range. Now, you can always train at home for free. It's just, it only costs you your time. But the problem is you need to actually go out and experience recoil often. It's a perishable skill. And with 9mm, 5.56, 223, every common round being so expensive right now and so hard to get because of the cost, an 11% increase on those already hyperinflated prices, really not a good thing. This is going to drastically affect a lot of people, and it's going to affect people that are poor disproportionately. I can probably afford the price increase, but that's because I'm very fortunate with where I'm at. Many of you that watch these videos can probably afford that price increase, but unfortunately, the people that can't afford it are the single mothers that are just trying to get by. Maybe they buy a high point or some sort of cheap, inexpensive firearm just to defend themselves with. And that's really unfortunate. I don't think that this bill is well thought through. I think that the exemptions are absolute garbage. I disagree fundamentally with giving police exemptions to the law. They are not above the law. I think that this bill has an incredibly high chance of passing, and it's because of that I think you need to spend the time to contact your representatives. If you live in the state of California, please, I ask this every time we do a video like this, but please, I'm begging you to call the people that wish to rule over you and make everything that you do in the shooting sports 10 to 11% more expensive. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace. Now, again, I know I'm sweaty. I know I look disheveled. I've been moving furniture a lot. Been moving a lot of stuff into the new house. Very excited for this, but with that comes sweaty times on a hot day. Thank you.